Hello, and welcome to the PC Gaming Weekspot, your recap of the last 7 days in PC video gaming. My name is Colin Mahern, and joining me this very week, can he have 2 goals? Too right he can. It's Mr. Matthew Castle.
Hello.
Hello, Matthew. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
Goals or golds?
Golds.
Okay.
Did you see this momentous occasion for the first, not the first time in Olympics history, I believe, but the first time since 1912, 2 athletes shared a gold medal? It was actually I was watching it live. It was quite a sweet, nice moment.
Was it just a perfect draw between them otherwise?
Yeah, it was 2 high jumpers, the Italian and the Qatari high jumpers. Yeah. They just got the same score, and the Olympics representative went over and he was like, listen, we could have a little jump off between the 2 of you if you like. And then one of them was like, can we just share it? And he was like, it is a possibility. And then one of them turned to the other and was like, we're Olympic champions. So it was like, very, very sweet, nice moment.
Well, that is sweet. Did they snap it in half?
I think they just said, do we have a spare one in the back? But we'll have a look.
We've made exactly the number we were going to need.
Do you know how, because I don't know why, but I was like, how much gold is an Olympic gold medal? Do you know how much an Olympic gold medal is worth? Now, obviously, not, I don't know, if you stuck it on eBay and it was like, I don't know, Michael Phelps or Usain Bolt's gold medal, I'm sure it would make more than this. But the actual cost of a medal.
Oh, well, it's going to be low then, based on what you just said. $200.
All right, not as impressive then as I thought because of what, but £540.
Oh, well, that's...
But you know, yeah. like it's not like we could buy an Olympic gold medal if you wanted.
Yeah, but you
and just pretend.
You know, you'd soon come unstuck when you're showing it to people, and then they're like, "What did you get it for?" And it's quite easy to look it up online whether or not you're full of shit.
True, but you know, if you were in a scenario where people trusted you, if you gained people's trust over a number of years so that they wouldn't then Google it and it just naturally came up in conversation, did you know that I'm an Olympic gold medalist?
Yeah, or like you save it for when you're really old.
Yes.
You start showing it to people when you're like 80 and then you're like, oh, I got this 50 years ago for trampolining or something, and then...
And like, who's going to question?
Who's going to look it up? You just be like, wow, I live next to an Olympian. Amazing.
Who's going to question the poor old man with Alzheimer's? They're just going to be like, oh, you know, like, but it's now he's not in a fit state to do much, but you should have seen him back in the day with the discus.
Good God, he could bounce.
So before we get on to video games chat, we do need to take a very quick word from our sponsors. This episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot is sponsored by Wild Bill's Craft Beverage Company. Matthew, it's the summer, it's very hot, you enjoy the occasional soft drink, correct?
The occasional soft drink? I love them.
Well, how about a craft beverage?
Oh, tell me more.
Well, this is just for American listeners and viewers, so those in the UK can't taste excellent flavours such as juniper, dreamsicle, and aged vanilla.
Oh, sounds delish.
So if you want to taste some of these, if you want to buy some of Wild Bill's drinks, head to drinkwildbills.com and at the checkout use the discount code CHEERS15 and you'll get 15% off your first order.
That's CHEERS15 for 15% off your first order of Wild Bill's craft beverage soda pops.
Yeehaw! Right, thank you very much, sponsor, and the quick word. Matthew, could you grab your news crank for me?
Right
Open
here.
that gob, because I do indeed have some information snacks for you.
Info snacks for his gob.
So, the first information snack I have for you isn't really a snack. It's quite big. So, the Activision versus California story and the lawsuit therein still, it continues. It will continue for quite a while, I would imagine. The employees of Activision walked out last Wednesday. This was after an open letter from the CEO, Bobby Kotick, that wasn't really seen as or deemed satisfactory by the employees. Then Ubisoft employees showed their solidarity with Activision with their own open letter, and it mentioned the continuing problems that they have, and just, called for an end to the abhorrent conditions that ravage Ubisoft and Activision and, the games industry as a whole. As I mentioned last week, please do seek out some of the great reporting that's out there on this. Imogen's been doing an excellent job on Rock, Paper, Shotgun. There has been loads of people are. So do go seek that out. But yeah, it's a story that will continue, and even by the time you're watching or listening to this, something else may have come out and changed. So yeah, that would be the best way to do it. In other news, Matthew, I have some game delay snacks for you. So, sadly, Kena Bridge of Spirits, which was meant to be out in late August, is now coming on the 21st of September. I was really looking forward to that one. That was, I think, meant to be out in February or March of this year first. But it's been kind of delayed. Also, another delay. Icarus, which was Dean Hall, DayZ Man, his session-based space survival game, that's been delayed to November. And the game of the year, apparently, and one I didn't know about till about 2 or 3 weeks ago, Splitgate has also been delayed. Now, are you familiar with Splitgate, first of all?
No.
All right, so this is a Portal-y / Halo-y online shooter that was started off life in its beta quite small, and then just I honestly don't know.
I did hear about this.
Yeah, I don't know if a big Twitch streamer or a YouTuber or somebody played it, but it just blew up. So the reason that's being delayed, it's meant to, I think it was late July it was meant to be out, but it's not been delayed by much. It's just a few weeks. But developer 1047 or 1047, they said they've run into server issues because during the beta, the game had 400 concurrent players. Not bad. And it just rocketed up to 75,000 concurrents. Right. It has been downloaded over 2 million times.
Interesting. Is that the next Phenomenon game?
Potentially.
Is it the next Valheim, Among Us, Fall Guys?
Perhaps. I mean, this is definitely more. I mean, like, if you look at some of those games, Valheim maybe to a lesser extent, but like Among Us and Fall Guys, they're quite easy to pick up and play for everyone of all skills. This does seem very skill-based online shooter. As I said, Halo, but with portals.
Yeah, it's interesting, the Halo-y thing, because, there was obviously the Halo Infinite sort of technical beta thing, whatever they were calling it, the weekend just passed, and I was just pondering to myself about like whether Halo is still like appetizing in this day and age, like if there's still an appetite for it, or just the nature of shooting games are so sort of war focused, or like the ongoing success of like Call of Duty and Battlefield, whether there is still is Halo just too different to kind of be a big thing anymore? So the idea of other Halo-ish shooters doing well, I don't know, just if to me it feels a little bit like a game out of time that some people have like a deep nostalgia for, and that's what keeps it going. But
yeah, perhaps.
Maybe not.
Well, talking about Halo, yes, as you said, the technical beta or whatever they were calling it, I can't remember, but you had to sign up, get the invite from Chief, and you could play a bit of Halo Infinite multiplayer.
He delivered it by hand. He knocks on your door. And he's so strong that when he knocks on your door, he just like punches it in.
There was nothing campaign related in this actual technical preview. Right. However, those pesky data miners, Matthew, they had a little dig and they found some campaign details. So apparently story spoilers are out in the wild. So if you bloody love the Halo lore and Halo story, just be wide.
Who doesn't?
And another thing I saw, but I haven't seen loads of people report on this, so I don't know kind of the validity of it or whatever. But apparently, data miners also saw a mention of Battle Royale in there as well. But yeah, I haven't seen a lot of places report that, so I don't know. We'll see.
Spoiler alert, there'll be lots of scenes where just a completely unemoting set of armor looks at computer screens and then looks at like the horizon of an alien world and is completely stoic and impossible to read. So,
Matthew, you weren't meant to spoil it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Keeping it Xbox flavoured, we did get a little Forza Horizon 5 update in the last week. Playground Games said that the game has 11 different biomes and it's 1.5 times the size of Horizon 4's map. On the Xbox Wire blog, they said, quote, each of the 11 unique biomes will transition through the seasons differently. As an example, spring means the rainy season in the jungles and farmlands of Mexico, while summer could bring intense tropical thunderstorms along the coasts. Forza Horizon 5 seasons ensure Mexico is constantly evolving, encouraging players to explore the world in full each time the seasons change. So it's
exciting.
It's essentially a sort of an upgrade of what they introduced in Horizon 4, where
I think one of the complaints is that the seasons just sort of blanketed the world in Horizon 4. So
yes.
Like everything was just Winterland for a bit, and then everything was just Springland. So the appeal of, there are some surprises to kind of take you around the map is quite cool.
Sounds good.
11 biomes.
That's a lot of biomes.
There's a lot of biomes.
There's a lot of biomes. I don't know how many biomes are in Back 4 Blood. I would guess the one, but I don't think people come for the biomes. They come for the zombies.
Back for biomes.
So
I am here for the biomes, and they're like, well, you're going to be disappointed. That isn't really the focus of this game. Well, I'm writing you a negative Steam review.
So the pre-order beta for that begins on the 12th of August, and it'll run until the 16th. So yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we'll see if it's the Left 4 Dead that people want. In other news, a few weeks ago, we mentioned that Sony had bought the Square Enix PC port studio, Nixies. But Sony Interactive CEO, I should say, Jim Ryan, has now confirmed that the studio will be focused on bringing PlayStation games to PC.
Yeah, that's good.
So, that is good. We'll get to, I think I mentioned it last week in passing, but I got a PlayStation 5 and I played that Astrobot.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, that's terrific, isn't it?
I told you it had good controls.
Yeah, you did. I think I'm actually a bit surprised that they didn't charge for it, to be honest. Like, as a pack-in, that's a quality pack-in.
It's a good pack-in, but I think like
when I say charge, I don't mean 70 quid.
I mean, I paid enough for my PlayStation. Like, games consoles should come with pack-ins as a matter of course. So like it's
I mean, it is a bit disappointing that consoles. Yeah, you no longer, apart from this, obviously, you no longer get pack-ins, and you also have to buy a second controller. It's not the days of old. If
they made like a 20-hour or whatever Astrobot, I would probably buy and play that game.
Sadly, they shut the studio down. No. So yeah, they did, didn't they? I think. Oh, maybe I'm speaking out of turn.
No, Sobi, I think, still exist.
Do they? All right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep it PC flavored. And I should have mentioned this earlier when we were talking about Halo.
We're going to come back to Halo, are we?
We're going to come back to Halo. Apparently, you can drop weapons in Halo Infinite, and that's a big deal.
That's the last news bite you're going to toss into my info gob or whatever we're calling it.
Apparently, Halo players deem this a big deal, so Good stuff. So Matthew, those are your information snacks for this week. So now let's go on.
Thanks for saving the best till last.
To the bigger news stories. Take it away, Hugh.
Hello, I'm Hugh Edwards. Working in news is exciting.
Yes, headlines and hot takes at the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we take you through the bigger news stories of the past week. So, the biggest thing probably when it comes to like game announcements and trailers and all the razzmatazz was that Annapurna Interactive Showcase, which it was Annapurna's not E3 flavoured deal that lasted for about a half an hour and actually quite notable, really. Before we get on to the games that were shown, a few non-game announcements. Outer Loop, who is the Falcon Age developer, they spoke about their game, but kind of in very vague terms. But what they showed was a skateboarding game that they said would tie into, quote, immigrant culture in America. So I think what they showed looked pretty good. There was Jessica Mack as well, another developer, who is best known maybe for one of my favourite Vita games, Sound Shapes. Really enjoyed that. Didn't get an awful lot on her game, but again, it will have a heavy musical element. One studio that showed us nothing except for a bit of character and flavour as they had a tea party. It was the announcement of a new studio called Ivy Road that's been founded by Davey Redden, who made the Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide, and Carla Zimonja, who co-created Gone Home and Tacoma. Yeah, didn't say much about their actual game, but they just said, you know, we're set up the studio, and for our game, we've also got C418, who's the Minecraft composer on board. He's making the music for it. And also Observation developer No Code is working on a horror game. Again, they didn't really say much else, but they said it was their biggest project to date.
That's exciting.
That is exciting, yeah. Well, I've actually, from their little bit, one of the more interesting things I took from it was that they said they have never tried to make a horror game. They said, you know, we've just tried to make kind of thrillers and, you know, people have been scared. But now we're actually going to try and make a horror game. So I really liked Observation.
I mean, they've got a lot of Alien Isolation bods set up the studio. So like they've got definite horror pedigree. Oh, they've definitely, that'll be great. I can't wait. Whatever
Looking
that is.
forward to it. So the games they showed off, they started off by showing one that I know you and I are both looking forward to, and that is The Artful Escape. The big new thing, well, there were two things Artful Escape flavoured that they announced. First of all, they announced the cast as quite a cast. So you've Michael Johnston, who's best known for Teen Wolf, Jason Schwartzman, who's a Wes Anderson boy. You've Mark Strong from Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Lena Headey.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Mark Strong's been in loads of stuff.
But you know, I have to just give these. I have to give these people. I mean, I can rattle off their Wikipedias if you'd like, and we'll be here for a while. Lena Headey from Game of Thrones, and Carl Weathers, who is obviously best known for being Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
This is, and yeah, the other thing they announced is that is going to launch on the 9th of September. So very close. Very close.
I'm very excited about this one. I played this at E3 2017.
That's a while ago. Yeah.
That's 4 years ago, and it seemed not like it seemed finished back then, but it seemed pretty complete. Like the idea was excellent back then. You know, it's a 2D platformer, sort of with sort of musical elements where all your movement kind of is you're holding a guitar and you're kind of, oh god, I wish I knew guitar terminology. He sort of goes
chords. Yes, the diddly 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 diddly.
He sort of goes diddly 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 a little bit to sort of do like air jumps and things, and I think it like harmonizes with the background music. It just sounds amazing. Like everything you do in this game like looks and sounds really, really satisfying. Yeah, you have these like little call and answer kind of concerts where like a big thing will play like a tune and then you mimic it and then you kind of end up playing these kind of mad little duets.
It looks great. It looks
super. Yeah, it's like a big kind of it's like the character sort of on a sort of odyssey to sort of discover his musical persona. So I think it's sort of going to take you through sort of, I don't know, different genres and stuff. It's just fab.
And it's out in just over a month.
It's made by a man called Johnny Galvatron.
That's a name.
That is a name.
That is a terrific
With a name like that, you have to make a game like this.
Indeed.
I think he like was a pop star.
A musician. A pop star or
an
a
Australian
musician?
pop star, yeah.
Oh. That's
not what, I mean, maybe he still is, but he, I think before the game development, he had that's where the game comes from, is he had he has lived this life of pop stardom.
I didn't know that. It's very interesting. I want to talk to Johnny Galvatron. Definitely. Second, then, up during the showcase is a game that I thought looked like quite cool before when they showed it off. Now I'm fully on board. Neon White. So the big thing from this, was we actually got more of an involved gameplay demo with developer commentary over the top as well, explaining how it all works together. But this is from the developer of Donut County, Ben Esposito. Quite different to Donut County. It is a single-player speedrunning FPS where you do loads of parkour and you purge Heaven of Demons. So that's good. Oh, there's also dating sim bits as well. And what was explained by in the commentary over the top of the video was, you have these short levels. I think we got one playthrough that lasted through a level that was, 30 odd seconds, and another that was like, here's how to do it. And it was 8 seconds or something. But you use the cards that you collect along the way, and those cards double up as either a gun or an ability. And when you when you burn a card, I think you get rid of the weapon, but then you get the ability, whether that's a fireball, I think was one ability that's sort of looks like a blink in Dishonored, or there's that elevate card that, just kind of props you up in the sky. I think this looks, I think I'll be terrible at it and I will never crack the leaderboards or anything like that, but I just think this looks great.
I love it when developers just completely zig after they've zagged with their games. It's the guy who makes the game about dropping kind of cartoon animals into comedy holes. Comes up with this. It's pretty wild.
This take your fancy? Is it?
I think I kind of I've had it explained to me several times, and I've watched the footage and things. I imagine it makes a lot more sense when you're actually playing it and getting into it. I like the look. Definitely like the look of it and the style of it. I just need to
actually play it.
See how it kind of feels.
The dating sim aspect.
Yeah.
Well, I think was you would collect items in these levels, like gifts, and then give them to other characters in the world as well. That would then open up other opportunities, maybe locations. I don't know. It looks good. No date on that, I believe. Just winter. So this year, but no concrete date on it yet. Then after that, very little can be said about this, to be honest with you. But if you like games where you'll be crying at the end during the credits, this one is probably for you. A Memoir Blue. Totally new game we hadn't seen before from developer Cloisters Interactive. What it does is it takes you through the memories of a mother and daughter, and it had this weird kind of mix of art styles that was very cartoony and just normal.
Oh right, she sort of
kind
sees
of lifelike.
She sees her memories as kind of cartoons.
Yes, yeah. Don't know. Very, very little to go on other than that. But if you like sad stories, this one is probably going to be for you.
Hankies at the ready.
After that, I thought this looked great, and I wanted to play the demo. I just didn't have time, sadly, but there is a demo available on Steam now if you're interested. Storyteller. This is it's a puzzle game where you are presented with this storybook. The book will give you a prompt, like a story of a tragedy, and then it'll give you a couple of characters and emotions, and then you have to create a tragedy, basically by placing these characters and these emotions on little panels. Yeah, as I say, no date, but demo on Steam if you want to give it a go. I think I'm a bit disappointed I haven't gotten to play the demo. I'd have more to say, obviously, but I think this looks quite cool. I don't know if you were into this.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how kind of sort of complicated it gets, because the rule, because it's they sort of say that it kind of, the game's quite open in kind of how it interprets your inputs, and you can be kind of quite creative. And I'm interested like how much of a sort of puzzler it is, or if it's more of just like a sort of weird little kind of narrative toy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, on paper though, great idea.
Oh, very good, Matthew. And you didn't even mean it.
Yeah,
Excellent. Very good.
I don't mean anything I say on this.
Then after Storyteller, we got Solar Ash, which I suppose the biggest Solar Ash thing we got was again a release date coming on the 26th of October to Epic Game Stores. This is the one from the people who brought you Hyper Light Drifter, and the color palette looks very Hyper Light Drifter, but gameplay wise, not quite as Hyper Light Driftery, I suppose.
No.
More action focused. Looks, it's quite striking.
It does sound like a broken record. I always find with these kind of like very like sort of experimental movement games, or games that are doing more ambitious things with movements, like I just have no read on them at all. Like you just can't tell if they're going to be any good until you've tried them yourself.
Yeah.
Like, and because of that, they don't like in their like preview stage or trailers, they don't really do much for me, because I don't know, I just don't really get a kind of like particular like feel for it. Yeah, I'm curious about this one, but it's a big wait and see for me.
You won't have to wait long. 26th of October, not too far away. This one is what they showed after that. Then this one is weird. What did you make of Skin Deep? This is probably the strangest game. This is a first-person shooter from Blendo Games. You probably know, where you're tasked with killing space pirates because you need to protect the cats that are on your spaceship. It has roguelike aspects as well, it appears, because if you mess up, you can start again. No release date, but it's coming to Steam at some point.
Yeah, I mean, this. I think didn't this sort of start off as he was sort of experimenting with trying to make a kind of Die Hard game.
I'm not familiar. I'm not aware.
I believe it was like the idea of like you are being a person in an environment like John McClane, where you have to deal with a set number of threats, and you're dealing with, you're unequipped, and it's the kind of comedy / tension of things that could go wrong, like. Like the classic, I think the classic example he gave was in Die Hard, the whole, like, he doesn't have shoes, right, and how that changes the time he has. And I think that has sort of evolved into this, you can see elements of here, like, you're really smelly now and you're going to be leaving these stink clouds, so people are going to be able to, like, track you down and stuff. So it's kind of, I don't know. If the read on this is like, it's a bit like a sort of comedy immersive sim. I don't know if that's.
I mean, the trailer definitely wasn't played completely straight. So
I mean, the setup of it's daft, and I'm super intrigued by this one. he's always made very sort of cinematic games. 'Cause it's the
30 Flights.
Yeah, and Quadrilateral Cowboy and all that kind of jazz. And, I really like those games, but they're very kind of like super focused. So the idea of something which is a bit like wider and more of like a big sort of systems playground is, really, really intriguing.
It definitely does feel a bit of a departure from some previous games. So, yeah. Then the penultimate game they showed off is one that I think will be near and dear to your heart, Matthew Castle. Stray, because you play as a little cat.
Oh, and I am a cat.
And you are a cat as well, yeah. So, you'll be able to relate to the protagonist quite well. So, yeah, you're a cat roaming around this dystopian city. You do all the things the cats do, like jumping and scratching and purring and et cetera, et cetera. But you'll mostly be exploring this city with the help of a little robot pal that you meet, and your main aim is to try find your way back to your family. This one was, I don't know if they ever actually officially announced a release date, but the common thought was that it was going to be later this year, kind of autumn time. But it is coming to PC in early 2022. And we got a fairly in-depth look at it. I thought this actually looked much better than what I was expecting, and looked more, I don't know, more involved, more just kind of like a puzzle platformer, really. What did you think?
Yeah. I mean, production values wise, pretty amazing. Like, not to be like too crude with like AAA games are X and indie games are Y. But like, it does strike me that you get these, reasonable sized teams, but not like huge teams, but they're making things that kind of like, 10 years ago would have been like production values wise, like AAA games, just how meaningless those terms seem to have become. Watching some of these things, you're like, wow, these are, small teams, just, how they make these things to this kind of scale and this kind of quality is kind of magic to me. I like the look of it, like the little cat animations, the scratching all the sofas and all that kind of stuff.
You love all that, Matthew. You're cats. It's a cat. You love cats.
Yeah, I do love cats, and they seem to have very accurately, captured the energy of a cat. I'll be curious, like, what the kind of sort of challenge or kind of sort of conflict or sort of threat of the game is. I must admit, I'm a little cool on the weird little kind of future rat things.
You don't like the little blobs of fat with gold eyeballs that follow you around,
I
no?
mean, yeah, that's okay. It looks a little bit sort of Plague Tale-y when he's escaping all those things. I was just a fan of the fact that there was peril in this game, and there is some, while you're not, well, it seems you're not going to be swiping at these enemies. There are, sections with baddies. There was even a part actually at the end of it where you had a laser. The fact that like platforming all seems context sensitive with like button cues to like jump around the environment and stuff. That strikes me as quite kind of, user friendly. This feels like it's going to be aimed at a, like, anyone can play it kind of crowd. No, that's not a bad thing at all. But walking around as a little cat, that's good. More games about cats, fewer games about dogs. I'm up for that.
Yeah, that's where we differ. If this was a stray dog, yes, then maybe Stray 2. Fingers
crossed. A cat's
crossed.
got a lot more like independent energy. A cat makes a lot more sense to me as a video game protagonist than a dog.
Okay, yeah. Begrudgingly, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah. Now, if you had like a Homeward Bound situation, you had a group of dogs. If you just made Homeward Bound the video game.
Homeward Bound is a dog and a cat, isn't it?
Oh shit, is it?
Or was it two dogs and a cat?
I thought it was two.
It's not a dog, a cat, and something else, like a rabbit. No, it's not a rabbit.
Oh, I don't think there's a rabbit. Unless there was in a sequel. Was there? Was
I think
Hightower?
maybe there's two. Maybe there's like an old wise dog, a young stupid dog, and then like a prissy cat.
Do you know what? I think you've nailed it. I think that is the whole.
I mean, if there wasn't, that's what the mix should have been, because that is gold.
And then finally, Annapurna finished off with a biggie. Matthew, it's all official. Outer Wilds, Echoes of the Eye. And that's kind of everything we know. Well, I suppose we know that it's coming on the 28th of September. And yes, this isn't a full-on sequel. It is an expansion to the original Outer Wilds. And a quote here from him that says, Echoes of the Eye will, quote, weave directly into the existing world and narrative. And that was it. Like, there was even a little bit from the developer during the showcase introducing this. And that didn't reveal much else either. So, I mean, hard to speculate on this an awful lot.
I think a lot of the clips they showed in this trailer of like the specific new things you're doing, they're all like interiors. So I wonder if it'll be like, you know, this game, for all its like mad scale, and it has got this awesome scale to it, and you know, this big clockwork universe and all that. Like, it has a couple of stretches which are a bit more like linear, like dungeon puzzles. Like game, you know, there are like, you complete these sort of quantum trials to kind of learn about the different kind of quantum mechanics in the world. And this to me like looks like it could be sort of an extension of that. Like, I could see how they could whisk you to more self-contained areas for kind of puzzling. Like that would in my head be easier than going like, oh, there was a sixth planet all along,
right?
Because the game is so tightly knit, you know, like it's so kind of perfectly formed as it is. You can't just shove another thing into the mix and go, oh, this was part of the story as well, you know. I mean, it would be amazing if they did. I mean, that would be super dramatic. You know, you wake up in one loop and there is another planet. What's the deal with that? You know, how does it work? Does it impact the rest of the game? But yeah, but just the fact that clips are like caves, weird puzzle devices inside, that to me feels like that could be the workaround that they take, you know, they whisk you to like interior locations, because they do that.
Is there any part of you, because I know Outer Wilds is a favourite of yours, and you even just mentioned it's so tightly knit, everything, it all works in concert, everything is perfect from start to finish. Is there any part of you that's like, oh, you're making this extra thing, how is that going to work? Or are you like, no, totally up for this?
Like when you play Outer Wilds, like just the intelligence of that team shines through like so clearly that they don't feel like a team that would make a bad decision with regards to something like this. Like, it's such a careful, kind of thoughtful game. Like, it's not just, this doesn't strike me as a team that would just do a cash grab of like, you know, it's not like, oh, we're just going to go to like, it's not like an Assassin's Creed DLC. It's not like, oh, we've discovered Ireland, let's go there. You know, it's just going to be like a chunk of what you've already done. Like, the fact that they are talking about like weaving it through that narrative, you know, whether they always intended to do it or whether they just really, you know, whatever they've done, I think it will be thought through and make sense. Yeah, like, I know it's broad to say like it's impossible to imagine them doing something bad, but like with a game this good, at the moment with their track record, it is kind of impossible to imagine them doing something bad.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
They've got a perfect track record. They've made like one of my favorite games of all time. That's all they've done. I fully expect them to like have made it better. You know, if we load it up though, and it's like, you know, there are now 50 marshmallows dotted around the solar system to collect, then I'd be sad. But I don't think they're going to have done that. If this was called Outer Wilds, The Marshmallow Chronicles,
then maybe.
Then I might be a bit more worried. I just hope I don't. One thing I will say, I hope I don't have to do the fucking anglerfish stuff again in this DLC, because those things were scary as hell. They still are scary as hell. I do not want to have to deal with those again.
It seems like you won't. Again, I suppose we'll see. It says it all weaves in with the what's there. It doesn't sound like this totally, on the main menu you'll pick Echoes of the Eye. Maybe you will. I don't know. But it's out in about a month and a half, 2 months. So I thought overall better than some of the E3 showings. Annapurna, I like a lot of the stuff, not everything, but I like a lot of the stuff that Annapurna puts out. And I thought as a collection of whatever it was, 7, 8, 9 games, pretty strong.
All are pretty classy. Some of their stuff is a little bit like diddly D for my liking, but they've got a couple of absolute like surefire hits. So
no, there is a bit of the old plinky plonky piano in some games, but sometimes a bit of plinky plonky piano.
What was the romancy one they did on the phones?
Florence.
Yeah, I liked
it. I thought Florence was good. I thought that was good. Well, look, I'm
not really my cup of tea.
I'm a fan of romance. Matthew, Heart of Stone.
I hate romance.
So Heart of Stone. Matthew, another thing you hate is the Steam Deck.
I don't hate the Steam Deck.
Coming up ahead, it's Tech Corner, baby, which we should just rename Steam Deck Avenue, because that's what it's probably going to be until December.
Steam Deck, it's like a place we go to on the ship.
Perfect. Yeah, just the Steam Deck.
Let's head to the Steam Deck.
So, apparently it's future-proof.
Wow.
This is what Valve have said, but they would also like your money, so they probably will make other ones as well. So, developer Pierre-Loup Griffet spoke to IGN, and he said that things are looking, quote, pretty good, end quote, for Steam Deck when it comes to future-proofing. He added, we got a little bit more off Pierre than just pretty good. He said, everything that's been coming out this year that we've tried has been running without issues. I think this is largely a factor of industry trends. If people are still valuing high frame rates and high resolutions on different platforms, I think the content will scale down to our 800p 30Hz target really well. If people start heavily favouring image quality, then we might be in a position where we might have trade-offs, but we haven't really seen that yet. And then Steam Deck designer Greg Coomer, he said that which goes against what Pierre said, but anyway, he said that they're not against the idea of new Steam Decks in the future. Greg said, quote, we look at this as just a new category of devices in the PC space. And assuming that customers agree with us that this is a good idea, we expect not only to follow up in the future with more iterations ourselves, but also for other manufacturers to want to participate in the space. I mean, they do already. There are Steam Deck equivalents. It's just they're a lot more expensive. Like Steam Deck has made this handheld PC a bit more affordable. But I mean, we spoke previously about, what would work on it. Would it be the indie machine? Would it be whatever? Like they've shown Star Wars on it. They've shown a few like big games on it. We've done all the subtitle stuff, but Tech Corner. It is going to probably be the Steam Deck in the future, which brings me on to my main question I wanted to ask you today, Matthew, which was, have you ever been on a boat?
Oh, yeah, I've been on loads of boats.
A boat aficionado? A boat?
Well, I wouldn't say aficionado. I have found myself on boats. I've been on a...
what am I doing here?
Yeah. I went on a proper Mediterranean cruise.
Well, la-dee-da.
Yeah, it was like the last big family holiday we ever did. I think it was for my stepdad's 50th birthday.
Very fancy.
We went on a kind of cruise.
How did you find it? How did you find the cruise experience?
I really liked it because I am a big lazy shit. So the idea of just sitting around is great. Quite luxurious. The boat had this. I mean, this wasn't one of its selling points, but it was just a fact about it is that, all the food was, it was all inclusive on the boat. And that I'm pretty sure at any point in the day, somewhere on the boat would be doing food. So you could get food. So there's 24-hour around the clock eating. Yes. And there was a day where me and my brother decided to like really like go for it and try and like just follow the food and see if we could just eat round the clock.
Oh, did you succeed?
Well, we got up to, it coincided with, they have a few fancy dinners, like sort of like almost black tie dinners in the evenings. 'Cause it was relatively swanky. And I got about halfway through that and I hit like complete fullness in a way that I never had before or
never have since.
Like I just almost couldn't move. I was just so blocked with food. And I had to sort of waddle off and just go and lie on a bed for several hours because I was just like, I couldn't be sick. I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't like get rid of any of this food. So I just had my body just had to like cope with it.
That sounds like absolute bliss.
It wasn't. It was terrible. I felt awful for those. But the thing is, once a bit of it shifted, I then went and hunted down some free pizza.
Good man.
You've got to follow the mission through.
Exactly.
Another a tiny little cruise story, as you asked.
Please.
They had these amazing breakfasts, but you could also order to the room. And I felt a bit bad because I felt the room ordering was more for like the elderly passengers. And I was sharing a room with my brother and stepbrothers. And it was really bugging me that they were trying to do this room service because I didn't really think it was for them or whatever the justification for it is. Maybe I was just being an asshole, whatever. But when they went to bed, you basically hung your order on the outside on the door. Like it was like a menu on like a do not disturb sign. And when they went to sleep, I'd go and change it.
You rotten
to like
bastards.
A horrible breakfast. So like they'd get a knock on the door. Like you'd set it and say like, I want it early. I want my breakfast extra early. And I ordered like just a tomato juice and a Ryvita. And I remember lying in bed, hearing the knock on the door, and they were like, "Oh, breakfast is here!" And then like the disappointment of like, "Oh, I don't know if this is our breakfast. This doesn't seem right. It's just this tomato." And I'm just lying in bed, like pissing myself with laughter. Oh my God, that was a good time.
That does sound like a great time. You get all the food to yourself. Lovely.
It was fantastic.
So those
I read the Da Vinci Code on that holiday.
Did you? Was that better than the food, or did the food trump?
Well, it was big at the time. That's the time it was. It was the time everyone was reading the Da Vinci Code.
That's like, what is that? 2006?
Probably earlier than that. 4, 5 or something.
Is it? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Where are they now? And of course, we'll have Dan on later in the show to get an update on where he is. So thank you very much, Hugh, and all of you developers and all that for your news stories. Now it is time to talk about the video games we've been playing over the last 7 days.
Show and tell, show and tell. We can't afford a proper jingle. It's meant to be jingle.
Yes, show and tell is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where we tell you about the video games that we've been playing over the last week. And not the biggest week of video game releases, maybe. Well, no, it's a fact, it's not. But, Matthew, you have probably played the biggest game out over the last 7 days. One that I was watching from afar and going, this looks interesting. So I am looking forward to hearing about it. Matthew, you have been playing The Ascent.
Yes, The Ascent, which is a top-down isometric action RPG, which may put you in mind of sort of a Diablo type deal. It's a bit simpler than that. I'd say it plays closer to a sort of arcade twin stick shooter. Right. Where there is a loot system in place and you can get like new equipment and new guns. But actually, once I'd found a gun that I liked, I kind of stuck with it for what I was playing. I've only played like the first, I don't know, probably 4 hours of this. I was having some problems getting it to run. It's like for an isometric sort of top-down sort of indie game, it's like surprisingly intensive. It's got a lot of bells and whistles because I think it's a bit of a Xbox Series X showcase.
Right.
So
okay.
It's got all ray tracing at the wazoo and all this kind of stuff. So it's like a if you charge everything up, if you pile up all the settings, it's a bit of a brute. So it took me quite a while just getting it like running smoothly. But let's not venture into tech corner. It's set in a sort of dystopian future society where everyone lives basically I guess like a giant sort of towering tower block, with all the scum live at the bottom and all the rich people live at the top, called an arcology, or the arcology. It's very like indebted to like the sci-fi biggies. I mean, there's an absolute shitload of Blade Runner in this in terms of the city design, all this mad like neon and sort of like Asian influence. The music is like a cross of Blade Runner and Ghost in the Shell. There's like a lot, it's an alien world, so there's a lot of like weird alien species. So it's got a little bit of like it weirdly reminds me of like the cantina in Star Wars. It's got a big that kind of energy with like lots of like weird little kind of gribbly monsters giggling away in the corners and stuff everywhere. So it really is just a huge like hodgepodge of sort of other influences. Like your mileage may vary on how much you dig it. Like I've seen some people who are a bit sniffy and think, well, it's just Blade Runner again. It's that thing, and it kind of is that, but it's also like it's quite impressive. I mean, it's amazingly detailed. I mean, I'd say like the most impressive thing of this world is just like how detailed it is, and it uses all these graphical effects to really like it feels like super sort of premium. There's always like mad lighting effects and these like buzzing neons and particle effect. It's a bit of a show off for this kind of like
Big
camera
time.
perspective.
Yeah, it's just looking at your gameplay here for those listening to the audio version. Isometric view, but the world itself, especially in the kind of city-ish landscape, like all the neon, all the lighting effects, looks like very impressive.
Yeah, and all there's always like storefronts, and there's loads of like bespoke assets, and you can go into a lot of the buildings. This is made by like 11-person team. It's pretty amazing for that in terms of just like how detailed the world is. I mean, like it's obviously hard to kind of compare them because they're so different perspective-wise on what they're trying to do. But there are genuinely lots of places in this. It feels like as dense as Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Certainly, once I'd found the right settings, kind of ran better than Cyberpunk ever ran for me. So yeah, and that is like, so just as like a style kind of like mood piece, this, it's going for something quite broad, but I think it achieves it really well. And like the most appealing bit of the world is seeing kind of the next bit of the world, if that makes sense. Like that when they go like you're going to this new region or whatever, it's enough to kind of pull you through. I mean, as an actual action game, like it's pretty simple. Like uses a lot of like if you've played a lot of twin stick games, you spend a lot of time moving backwards, shooting forwards, kind of kiting enemies through tight gaps. I mean, because of that, it can feel a little one note, but I would say that's true of this genre. And some people are really into that. And like, I like it enough, but it's like a little daft in that it feels like it's like a spite, given how kind of complicated the loadouts are and that you can like buy new gadgets and upgrade things and you can get sort of like cyberpunky kind of powers or whatever. A lot of the time it really does boil down to just like, get a good machine gun, walk backwards, shoot forwards. So,
right,
I would say it's more arcade shooter than it is like action RPG.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to ask, like, does it try and differentiate the encounters with how the enemies attack you or the weapons you have, and it doesn't sound like it does really?
Well, it does. Yeah, there are different like enemy types, and like there are different like. The weapons have different sort of styles and not necessarily different ammo type, but like they're effective against certain enemies and things. But like at least in what I played, I literally had like once I got a this reasonably decent assault rifle. Like that's what I used for the next 3 hours.
Right. Okay.
So that was, so that's more just like a managing expectations rather than like an outright kind of criticism. I mean, it hasn't got like, you are picking up loot, but like the weapons seem pretty universal stats wise. It's not like a Diablo where you're just hoovering up hundreds of things and you can create all these infinite interesting builds. It's a bit sort of simpler than that.
Okay.
The one thing it does have, which I think is quite interesting, is you can like duck down behind waist high. You can crouch, and then you're like hidden behind waist high cover, and then you can hold the left trigger. I was playing with a controller, so I don't know what it is on mouse keyboard, but you can hold the left trigger to sort of like shoot up and above it. So it's kind of got like a cover mechanic. It's not like as tight as a tactical shooter, but like I will say, like I did feel it was useful and quite key to surviving the bigger firefights. Was so there's a lot of running backwards, shooting forwards, but there's also like crouch, using a lot of waist high cover and trying to sort of like draw people out into the open so you can quickly pop up and shoot them. And it's like I think it would be overselling it to say it's like a big interesting cover mechanic, but it is another like flavor to the shooting which sort of helps. It also just creates like it looks like a more cinematic firefight when you've got lots of people kind of like popping up and blasting away and the cover's disintegrating and everything. So it feels like it's trying to kind of engineer moments where you can get, visually the combat can look a bit more interesting.
Right.
But how tactically deep it is, I mean, currently not very. I mean, you can survive just by being, quick on the trigger out in the open. But I quite like that kind of that cover element to it. It has some brains.
You mentioned cinematic there, and in the footage you've seen a few cutscenes. I think I saw a dialogue option exchange.
Yeah, you can ask questions to kind of get the lore. The story isn't really doing it for me. It's very like big on the like nonsense lingo, and so everyone talks like a kind of silly sci-fi character.
Okay.
Where it's got like its own slang and all this kind of stuff. And I know some people are like, that's the genre trope, and some people are into it, but I always think it's a bit kind of try hard. I'd rather they just said everything simpler in half the time. Like what's good about this game is running around like blasting stuff. It's the speed of it, I guess. So having to have great long conversations where people explain, the nature of this society, which, is, I mean, broadly speaking, it's the classic. Yeah, rich people up top, poor people down below. There's probably some tension between the two. I mean, it's not like, breaking any molds with that.
Yeah. Has it done enough to? Because again, you said kind of a couple of hours that you played. Has it done enough to compel you to play more, or are you I'm all right, I'm done?
I must admit, like where it got to, I was beginning to feel like a lot of these firefights kind of feel the same to me now, and like it was just the setting. So I've been fighting some stuff in some sort of sewer areas, and then some sort of generic kind of derelict sort of gang warehouses. But I'd just done like a section which takes you more to like the sort of Asian quarter of the city, and you kind of go up into some like grand sort of pagodas and fight some sort of Yakuza-y types up there, and that's sort of quite just seeing the palette change was almost enough. And it is introducing like enemy types that do more interesting things, or like they flush you out of cover better with projectiles, or there's these little kind of goblin guys who plant like turrets, and if you don't get rid of those, they'll become like quite a big pain in the arse, things like that, to kind of mix things up. But the core kind of like run backwards, crouch behind cover seemed to be working a lot of the time. From reading other reviews, people say it kind of, they've clocked like 20 hours in this, which would be like quite long for an arcade shooter.
Yeah.
Which is what it feels like. And it's so, I don't know if it's got enough there to like currently there wasn't enough to kind of tempt me outside of the weapon loadout I was using, for example, you know, like I didn't feel like I had to experiment with lots of weapons. Like I had a kind of optimal build quite quickly, quite easily. So I don't know if it's, you know, if like the length of it is meant to sort of suggest it's got the kind of depth of like variety and experimentation to sustain it. And I can't speak to that, but like based on the kind of stuff I've been picking up, I don't really see it myself. You can play co-op as well, which I imagine would be a good way of doing it, because then you can just all sort of ignore the story and just run around kind of blasting things away. I will say there is like a layer of like sloppiness on this, which is quite irritating, with things like quite a bad map screen, quite clumsy, like silly things like menus and fonts are quite small, quite sort of hard to read. It's feels like there's like probably like a couple of updates this game needs to like really like shine as it is. There's a lot, like there's some fast travel systems, but they're like, they only cover like certain areas, for example. And so there's a lot of backtracking. There's a lot of like shooting your way through a level and then walking back through a now empty level, which is quite bland. And it's quite big. Like the character moves too slowly. There's some weird stuff about like having to hold buttons to exit. And this admittedly is more of an early game thing, but like tutorial boxes and text boxes, you have to hold B for quite a long time to exit out of them. It's just little things where you think, did anyone actually like try this and think, is this nice? You know, is this satisfying to do? Little rough edges, which, you know, it's this team's first thing together, and, you know, they've achieved a huge amount with this, you know, like visually, production values wise, it's obviously amazing and kind of punching above its weight, but it's also like weirdly sloppy. Like dialogue menus are kind of like a bit rough looking and things like that. You know, there's just that extra layer of care is kind of missing from it. It's on Game Pass though, so you can try it on there. Though weirdly, again, like the Game Pass version on PC lacks some of the graphics options that the Steam version has.
I did see that news story.
And they said, I think this morning, that they're going to put those in and fix that or whatever. But that's what I mean. There's just every half an hour or so, you just run into something which feels a little careless in this game, and you think, you know, it just kind of takes you out of it a little bit more and kind of knocks your enthusiasm. Also, there are, you know, this like the weird balance of the technical. I mean, this is a personal bugbear of mine. I hate it when I have to constantly tweak graphics like well into playing, or like when your opening area isn't indicative of the whole. So you get everything set up and then you leave, and then it just like tanks the frame rate because it turned out that opening area is really simple. Or like I had it in this where like it was all fine, but like every time I hit an explosive barrel, like it would just like
chug,
you know, grind to a halt basically. Right. And it's just a little frustrating in ways like that, and maybe not like purely compelling enough by itself to kind of like put up with that stuff for now. So that's why I wonder if like give them a little time to like iron out some of those kinks. I mean, it's been, I think, very popular. I think it's you know, people seem to be talking about this game, so I hope having a lot of eyes on it will mean they will tweak it and polish it and tidy it up. And you know, I don't know if they've just focused, because you know, Xbox pushed this quite heavily, and I don't know if like the Series X was the kind of the focus platform, but there's just a bit of roughness with some of the stuff on PC, which for my liking. So it's a sort of it's a, you know, on Game Pass, yes, but would I buy it for whack?
Probably not. Very good. We are going to take a very quick break, and we'll be back with more video games that we've been playing over the last week.
Listen to the Electronic Wireless Show, rockpapershotgun.com's PC gaming podcast.
I'm Nate.
I'm Matthew.
And I'm Alice, and every Thursday we chat about our favourite things in PC games.
That could be the greatest giants, the coolest magic, or the best mysteries.
Although Alice will have to stop me making every episode all about fish, or Anthony Hopkins, or Rome.
So check out the Electronic Wireless Show every Thursday, available on all your podcatching apps or direct from rockpapershotgun.com.
Welcome back. I have not been playing the Ascent, which is why I'm glad Matthew told me all about it. I instead played the game that's the antithesis of the Ascent, really. I've been playing Omno, a video game I, in truth, hadn't heard of until quite recently. So again, available on Game Pass for PC if you're a normal person with a subscription and you like what you see and you want to give it a go. This is made by a solo developer called Jonas Menke. It is, the best way to describe it, shorthand, is a third-person journey-like. I mean, it's probably a bit reductive to compare every game of this ilk to that game company's game from, nearly 10 years ago now. I think it's 10 years, actually. But it's an easy way to get the vibe of this across quite quickly, because you are a voiceless protagonist that has this kind of, I don't know, you have a bag on your head, this kind of Hessian bag on your head, and you travel from location to location, solving puzzles, uncovering the history of this lost world, because there are little snippets of story scattered about that give you an insight into what used to be here, the people who used to be here, etc., etc. The rhythm of the game is enter area, collect 3 orbs that will open up the gate that will then unlock the next area, and then typically you have to solve a larger puzzle at the end, and then you repeat. Now, the puzzles themselves, they aren't a complete doddle. Like, this is, when I say it's a journey, like, I would also say that this is, like, when it comes to games like that, if you're not into the, at times, passive nature, you may enjoy this more. Like, the puzzles themselves, they're not brain busters or anything like that, but they do require a bit of light kind of platforming challenges, or there's an area where there's like a memory game, sort of like Bop It, but I don't think they could use that for trademark reasons, sadly.
Well,
it would have really fit in,
would have
fit with the tone as well. I would have really enjoyed it. It's worth mentioning as well that you get these powers, these abilities, like you get a dash, a glide, you get the ability to surf, again, sort of like that bit in Journey, and these become integral into the puzzles that you come up against within the locations where you get these abilities. Like, it's all weaved in together pretty well, but I suppose the big takeaway with this is that, you know, if you're looking at the video version of it, like, it's lovely. You know, it's a very, very pleasant looking game. It's not an oversaturated mess. Like, it's colourful, and it does the classic old school platformery thing of having desert area, jungly area, snowy area.
Almost as many biomes as Forza Horizon 5.
Indeed. But it's not a disgust. It's not like, you know, a colour wheel has vomited on this game. Like, it's all very pleasant, very kind of muted almost. It's not trying to attack your senses, you know? It's aiming to relax you and just give you a good old dose of niceness and pleasantness. There are a load of creatures as well living in this world, and they're all dead sound because when you go up and you interact with them, they'll give you some glowy items which you can use to interact with other puzzles. The creatures actually do give it a bit of life, and it's fun seeing what, I suppose sometimes they're absolutely ginormous and sometimes they're tiny, but just seeing what creatures are introduced as you go around this world and their animations whenever you interact with them. It's all just, again, very pleasant. Like,
very pleasant.
I don't know, like games like this, I know they mightn't be your bag. I quite enjoy them. Like, but
I haven't got a completely cold, stony heart. You know, I can enjoy more emotive things.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that sort of brings me on to something that I'm not a massive fan of when it comes to this game. So in the worlds that you go around, there are these little cubes that when you go up to them, it will, I think I already said, it'll tell you a bit about the history. It'll give you a bit of lore. And I didn't really need it. Right. I quite like games like this when they are a bit more cryptic. And I don't know, they just... environmental storytelling. Like when it just uses, I don't know, little images carved into walls, and like, I don't know, just it tells the story through the world rather than just going, there used to be a group here and blah blah blah. Like if you're watching the video version, you can see a bit of footage now, what I'm describing. I just, when the protagonist is voiceless and the animals aren't, it's not Banjo-Kazooie, they're not annoyingly making noises at you and you get text boxes. It just feels a little bit at odds with the rest of the game. But, and actually as well, there's very little new to this game. Like, I've compared it to Journey. I could probably cite a few other games as well. But it's just very pleasant. Like maybe it just caught me at the right time. But I wasn't totally aware of this game previously. Played it, I don't know, 3-4 hours maybe to completion. And the puzzles strikes the right balance of it's never really going to impede your progress. So you'll always get past it. But it's not piss easy either.
Reminds me a bit of last year Hello Games put out that Last Campfire.
Yeah, I didn't play that, but yeah, from trailers. Got a big
sort of similar kind of like just a nice sort of, it fills the time, not too long, not too complicated, but also not too like there's more to it than just walking through the world. Yeah,
like dare I say, a good Game Pass game. You know, a game that you may not play without something like a service. Such as Xbox Game Pass for PC.
Subscription services are available.
They are, but they're not as good, Matthew. They're not as good.
But they're all shit.
And very quickly, because I haven't played an awful lot of it, but a game that came out on, by the time you're listening and watching this, Monday, and a game Matthew actually spoke about a couple of weeks ago, maybe months ago, a while back, because he played the demo of it. I have also played Grime. That's Grime, just in case you couldn't understand that. So, yeah, like, haven't played loads of it. So what I say, like, you know, keep that in mind when I say what I say. But, yeah, side-scrolling, action-adventure, RPG type, Metroidvania-ish. This is for people who enjoy really macabre media or just edgy media, really. This one just didn't really grab me. I'll talk about that in a second. So, like, the setup is you're this muscly, upgradable man of stones, and you go from left to right and back again, killing most things around you. Now, one thing I did get on with when it comes to this game, and it is the thing that maybe might have me go back and play a bit more, but you have two ways to murder your enemies. One is just your weapon, just swing it at them and bring down their health bar. The other is by absorbing your enemies. I quite like this. So it sort of acts as your parry in a sense.
Right.
They take a swing at you and then you suck their being into yours.
Right. Yes.
So, and then when you I don't know, when you like collect, for lack of a better word, enough of one enemy type, and by collect I mean absorb them, you'll then be able to upgrade something about your Rockman. You know, like collects whatever, 6 of these massive boulder heads, and then you'll be able to, I don't know, get a certain trait, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I quite liked it, and I liked that. The game does force you to not just rely on your weapon. You do also have to do the absorbing, because not just for upgrading your little guy, but absorbing people is how you build up a meter that then you can use to refill your health. So it just encourages you to engage with both the absorbing and just the whacking people with your weapon. Because I should say, not you have to absorb enemies when they go to attack you, but the game is it communicates quite early on that some attacks, when they flash red, that means they can't be absorbed. I think it works quite well. Now, just my main issue with this, it's just that it's a bit tiring. From what I played, it exhibited more teenage angst than anything resembling a sort of a deep bleakness. That may change the more you play, so I can't speak definitively on that. But just from what I played, I found it a bit exhausting. It's just edgy, cool, cradle of filth, kind of. But it like every game these days, it has a bit of Dark Soulsiness in there as well. The weapons menu looks quite Dark Soulsy. It is pretty unforgiving as well when it comes to checkpointing.
Right.
Maybe it's caught me at a bad time, but if you're into all that, perhaps. But
sounds like someone needs to get good.
Possibly. Maybe I'll go back and play the nice, pleasant Omno. That was nice.
Yeah.
That never threatened me. But yeah, those are the games that we've been playing over the last 7 days. So now it's time to test the knowledge of one another in a different game. A game we like to call Mystery Steam Reviews.
It's time for Mystery Steam Reviews. Yeah.
Yes, Mystery Steam Reviews is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where I, Colin Mahern, and T. Matthew Castle test the knowledge of one another via Steam reviews that are a mystery. And the rules are as follows. Both I and Matthew bring 3 Steam reviews to the MSR arena, but we omit the name of the game associated with each review. Our opponent must correctly guess the game attached to each review. 1 correct answer equals 1 point. While both of us have 90 seconds on each MSR, we both also have help in the form of our lifelines. 3 of them, in fact. These can be used at any stage during battle and also pause the 90-second timer. Each lifeline can only be used once and once only, and they are as follows. Publisher, where the hot seat haver learns the publisher of the game. Second opinion, where a second review is given to the fiery chair sitter. And genre, where the genre of the game is revealed to the one with the warm arse. Now, this week's theme, a somber one of sorts. Both I and Matthew had to pick 3 games each that were developed by developers who are sadly no longer with us. They have since had their doors closed or closed them themselves since the game was released. Another little addition to the rule is that remakes or remasters are allowed. So if the original game was made by developer X, but somebody has since come on and remastered that game, that is still allowed for selection. I think we're all clear on that. So, Matthew, let's get this started.
Let's do it.
Here is your very first Mystery Steam review. Game series' name, the name of the game series is Humor, with the name of the developer's gameplay. Do you follow? Yep. Mm-hmm. Best combination. There are 113% less guns when compared to other games in the series, or close enough, but you'll recognise it. And that's from Loker. It is recommended 24.6 hours on record, 11.3 hours at review time. Matthew, your time starts now.
So, A game with a good sense of humour, but someone else's gameplay suggests it's a different thing. What games have got good... I mean, the troublesome with this category is it could be like old studios that haven't closed because they're like dramatically shit or anything.
Yeah.
They just closed because that's, over time things close. Fewer guns though. It's not like a Duke Nukem thing. That's a sort of gun game with humour. Borderlands has got guns, but they're 2Ks. They're the Gearbox, they haven't closed. Unless it's like a Gearbox subsidiary or something.
Ever Lifelines?
Could be actually it could be the Telltale Borderlands game. Humour, different gameplay, fewer guns. Should I use a clip? No, I think it's that. Actually, I think I'm safe. Tales from the Borderlands.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I think so.
So, here's a game series, but it's from a different developer. The mix of them works, but they're different. You were thinking Duke Nukem, that has humour. Borderlands, you've ended up on Tales from the Borderlands, which was, of course, made by Telltale Games. Matthew, I can tell you that the correct answer is Tales from the Borderlands. Yes, indeed. Telltale Games.
Closed.
Yeah.
Gone, but not forgotten.
Indeed. This is a celebration.
You will remember this.
Yes, indeed. Matthew, could I have my first Mystery Steam review, please?
I've done my usual. Like, I've. God, that's a shit sentence, isn't it? I guess it's meant to be like I've done what I've usually did when I was younger. Played an angelic playthrough and a totally evil one. Nothing makes your day like marrying the mayor to take her money, then Russian dancing in front of her until she divorces you. Says Twisted Kitten. They recommend this with 238.2 hours on record, but only 226.3 at time of review.
Jesus, time starts now. That's a long time. Okay. So you can play it as a goodie or a baddie. Marry the mayor. Alright, so I have 2 games in my head, funnily enough, both by the same developer. Although you can't marry them. No, this has to be... So, I'll tell you my thinking. Because it sounds quite Lionheady, which... And I have black and white in my head, with the angelic playthrough and the bad playthrough, or however the thing worded it. You're not going to be marrying the mayor's wife. You would do that in a Fable. And the only Fable game available on Steam, unless it's The Journey or something, I think is Fable Anniversary. I can't remember if that was Lionhead who made it or if it was somebody else, but I think it would fall in line with the rules of this. Might have been Lionhead who made it, actually. Do I use a lifeline? No, I think I'm going to take a chance. Fable Anniversary.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
So, you came quite quickly to a Lionhead game. You were torn between Fable and Black and White. The clue that was causing you trouble was getting married to the mayor. Could you, as a giant animal god in Black and White, get married to a human mayor? Or was that too spicy even for Lionhead? The correct answer is Fable Anniversary. Very well done.
You beauty. Was that Lionhead or was that somebody else?
That was, Lionhead.
That was them. Matthew, your second Mystery Steam review is as follows. Was a fairly good game despite the cutscenes that cannot be skipped. Interesting plot and detective work. Moderately good movement, although may get caught on minor obstacles, etc. Poor control in action events, e.g. fighting is lackluster. Good graphics. And that's from C-Fox. I suppose they have separated it. C-Fox. It is not recommended. 21.1 hours on record. 6.6 hours at time of review. Matthew, your time starts now.
So, interesting plot and detective work. Detective games from closed studios. I mean, Sherlock Holmes, they're still going. Movement, good graphics, bad guys, got combat, so it's not going to be like a point and click game. Could it be LA Noire? That's a detective game. It's got kind of the action, it's not great. Give me the publisher for this.
Okay, pausing the timer at 44 seconds. As Matthew...
If it's LA Noire, it'd be Rockstar or 2K or something.
Matthew uses his publisher lifeline. So the publisher of this game is... Rockstar Games.
Oh, it's gotta be LA Noire.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer. Team Bondi, I think it was, Australian team.
So, really zoned in on that detective work and very astutely noticed, spoke about combat. You were like, well, it's not going to be a Sherlock Holmes game or whatever, not a point and click. You've ended up on LA Noire. And I can tell you, Matthew, that the correct answer is... LA Noire! Good work.
That's a good pick.
Good work. Team Bondi.
I forgot they were dead.
So, Matthew, could I have my second Mystery Steam review, please?
The fedora did not match the suit. It makes no sense. Like, why is the suit grey and the fedora is brown? It's sickening. Like, just why? Plus, cops suck. Says Orkeen, they do not recommend this after 19.3 hours on record, but only 5.2 at the time of review.
Okay, time starts now. The fedora did not match the suit. Makes no sense. Cops. Cops and fedoras. Now, we've just spoken about a game that has cops and fedoras.
It definitely does.
You did a decent job of throwing me off the scent there now if they say LA Noire. Good tactic to use a lifeline if you were throwing me off the scent. Oh, I'd love to take a chance. You've done enough damage if this is LA Noire. You've done enough damage to force me to use a lifeline, I think. Fedoras and cops suck. I mean, I can't think of anything else, but also, I'm not positive. Pausing the timer at 32 seconds. Let's do a like for like. Could I have my publisher, Matthew, please?
The publisher for this one is... let me look it up.
Just make sure. It's important to double check these things. It's a very long name for a game. When you're ready.
Oh, sorry, I'm just looking it up. Publisher for this is Rockstar Games.
Right. Table tennis. No, LA Noire, Chris.
Is that your final answer?
That is my final answer.
So, you're looking for a game with cops, fedoras? We've already established that LA Noire was made by a studio that was closed, but is it this game that was published by Rockstar Games? The correct answer is... LA Noire! great minds. Very, very hard. Very hard to sell it.
You did, as I say, you did enough to make me use a publisher. Did well. That was a good throwing me off the scent there. Matthew, you could go 3 for 3 here if you get this. Here is your third and final Mystery Steam review. Awful story, map design, empty world, boss fights, no one talks. The main ops feel like a big side op. 4 mission types copied and pasted 200 times. Practically no cutscenes. And that's from Dexter. It's not recommended. 27.2 hours on record. Matthew, your time starts now.
Okay, empty world, no one talks, the main ops feel... For some reason I'm getting like Metal Gear Solid 5 vibes off this. But whether they count as a closed studio, like technically Kojima's lot. Hit me with my 2 last lifelines, genre and clue.
Pausing the timer at 1:11 as Matthew uses his second opinion and genre. So the genre of this game is, let me look it up, an open world stealth game. And the second opinion is, just as a standalone game, this is pretty good. However, as a game series name game, this is probably the biggest disappointment I've had in years. Really crappy story, cutscenes are few and far between, the game ends out of the blue, leaving tons of loose strings you want to see played out. The previous game in the series is a more satisfying entry than this, as sad as that sounds. Matthew, your timer 1:11 restarts now.
These 2 reviews, fucking Philistines. They do not deserve the stealth majesty of Metal Gear Solid 5. One of the greatest, if not the greatest stealth game of all time, in my opinion. Not enough cutscenes in the story. These guys suck. Both of these reviews suck. It's Metal Gear Solid 5. The Phantom Pain. The Phantom Pain in my life is fucking idiots like this writing reviews like that on Steam. Not enough cutscenes. Oh, you know what I really like about games? It's the bit where you don't do anything. Fucking idiots. Unbelievable. Why would you bring idiots like that into this good show?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, it's my final answer. I wish it was full of more wank.
So,
it better be Metal Gear Solid 5.
2 reviews there that made you very cross. However, whilst making you very cross, they did, to your eyes and ears, communicate something, about the game in question.
It's like a classic wrong opinion to have. That's why I recognise it.
You've ended up on Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain. And I can tell you, Matthew, that the correct answer is Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain!
Oh. Those people don't deserve that game. Kojima, after all those years, finally made just mechanically just a great, perfect, replayable game. But because it wasn't full of all the bollocks that everyone likes about his games,
Matthew, could I have my third and final Mystery Steam review, please?
Old but good. I played this game since I was an 8-year-old. Legendary. I play Ark Survival Evolved 2, and that game reminds me of this in so many ways. If you like the story and feeling of this game, I recommend Ark as a new game with much more possibilities, says Austrian 314, recommends it with 7.6 hours on record.
Time starts now. Alright, so it's old, played it since I was 8. And they're reminded a lot of Ark when they play this. Now, that implies that this game has dinosaurs in it. But is that a red herring? And it's not that it has dinosaurs, but it... Pausing the timer at 1:04. Matthew, could I have my genre and my second opinion, please?
Your genre is first-person shooter. Unhelpful. And your second opinion is there is no bullshitting around. You hit play and get right into the action. You're a time-traveling Native American, and there are some bad dudes making dino cyborgs that need to be stopped. There's nothing else you need to know.
Okay, 104 restarting now. Oh, no. I don't know.
There's nothing else you need to know.
There's nothing else I need to know. But the problem is, what I do need to know is something about either Turok or Dino Crisis. Because I know absolutely shit all about either of those games. And that's what this feels like. But are they on Steam? I know Dino Crisis went mad and they went to space and stuff. Is Turok more... Oh, man. That's all I had, Well, Dino Crisis, unless you're saying, that specific studio was shut down or something. Who made Turok? Oh, no, you done me on this. Turok.
Is that your final answer?
Doom. Yes, yeah.
You think of dinosaurs. You think of Dino Crisis. You think of Turok. The correct answer is...
Dino Crisis.
Turok.
Yes! Yes! Get in, go on, my son.
I mean, originally called Turok Dinosaur Hunter, which was its actual name, but on Steam it is listed just as Turok, so...
Go
lucky
on, my
you.
son.
Dino Crisis was Capcom, who are obviously still going strong.
That's why I was... Yeah, because then I was thinking... Because when I was looking up stuff for this, it was Capcom, is it Vancouver, who did Dead Rising? It's they've shut down, but I was that's too mean to just do the individual studio. So I was going to try and keep it that way, but I wasn't sure what specific Capcom studio made Dino Crisis. A share of the spoils as we celebrate the developers who are sadly no longer with us. But something we do have, Matthew, are some burning questions. So let's murder this poor bastard. Yes, burning questions is the part of the PC Gaming Weekspot where indeed we take your burning questions, your correspondence. You can email us at any stage throughout the week, weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com, and then we'll try get to your burning question on the show. So we start off, as is customary here on the PC Gaming Weekspot, with our friend Mog, who gave us a £9.99 super chat on during the YouTube premiere of during the last episode of the PC Gaming Weekspot. Thank you very much, Mog. You're an absolute legend. Mog said, "Fantastic job on Indies Uncovered." Thank you, Mog. If you want, you can go back and watch all of Indies Uncovered on youtube.com/rockpapershot. Mog goes on to say, which must-play indie games would you recommend? Of any genre or age? As always, keep up the great work, Mog. Thank you, Mog. That is an open-ended question. Any indie game ever. Hades is excellent. I mean, Celeste is terrific as well. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Return of the Obra Dinn.
Yeah.
Outer Wilds. I mean, we've talked a lot about that. I mean, so much stuff.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know where.
Too big. I almost need a genre or an age.
Yeah. I mean,
what was the first big indie game you remember playing?
Great question.
And being yes, or this is something else, or
it was probably Summer of Arcady.
Yeah,
I'd say maybe a Meat Boy.
Yeah,
maybe a Meat Boy, where I was like, "This is shit hot," or Shadow Complex. I remember really enjoying as well. Castle Crashers, actually, I played very early on as well, and I was like, "Oh, this is like the old school brawlers, side-scrolling brawlers that I enjoyed." Summer of Arcade was brilliant.
It was really
terrific.
good. I mean, obviously it's great that it's also open now and there's so much variety and interesting stuff. But I did also like the idea of like, you know, you're going to get some games in this slot and they are like pretty much all guaranteed bangers, like really curated by the platform holder. Like Steam wouldn't do it. You know, that's just runs counter to what they're trying to do. Brave,
would it be the same? Would it be the same for you? Something Summer of Arcade?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that, you know, when I was really young, there was probably stuff which was more like, you know, I guess like Flash games and stuff you could technically count as like indie games and things.
I suppose, yeah.
In terms of like when people were like explicitly kind of labeling these things, it did feel like it kind of, you know, it definitely in console land exploded around XBLA. Yeah, like probably a Braid or something. But
yeah,
there's loads of, you know, read Rock Paper Shotgun. I mean, they suggest a couple of great new indie games every other day or every day or whatever. It's
yeah. There's yeah. It feels all like, well, we don't have to get into the debate of the term indie now, which is sort of like the term indie when it comes to music. Also, like Indian games has taken a weird meaning.
Like when you've got like indie publishing labels, isn't the relationship that you're being published by someone, doesn't that technically
that negates it? Does
isn't
it not?
That what the distinction used to be? Is it was like self-published versus not, you know, and now actually.
No, you haven't like Devolver, an independent publisher.
You know,
Annapurna, I think, come under that banner as well. So
you know, nothing's. You know, we're getting to a point where you used to be able to make maybe like a retail distinction, but you can't do that anymore because why is that? You know.
But yeah, thank you very much for your question, Mog.
Sorry for the less than comprehensive answer.
Jonathan gave us a £5 super chat during the last episode of the Weekspot. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Very kind of you as well. Jonathan asks, serial super chatter Mog appears to be as much a piece of the furniture as you boys. So I have to know, if you could ask Mog anything, what would it be? Probably just like, how are you, Mog? What? Who are you, Mog? Who is the elusive Mog?
I'd be intrigued to know the relevance of Mog.
Yeah.
The name.
Why isn't it Sarah or Dave? Like why Mog? Why a picture of I think there's a quarter pounder is their profile avatar. Why that? You know? I just want to really drill down into who Mog is. So many questions, basically.
Yeah. I'd like to ask Mog whether they feel they get their money's worth every week.
Yes.
With these donations, we obviously appreciate them.
I hope Mog does. Actually, yeah. What are Mog's thoughts on a bounty? Like that's important to know that as well.
We got loads of questions.
If the world properly ever opens up again and there's an EGX or a Rezzed or something like that, please, Mog, come up to us and just introduce yourself. Because
we don't even know if Mog's in the UK.
Again, fair point. Now, the only thing is Mog does... the YouTube super chats are in sterling, which would imply...
Check out Sherlock Holmes over here.
Going to my mind palace with Mog.
Mind palace, and you just see a giant pound symbol equal, probably based in Britain.
So I would guess that Mog, but yeah, could be wrong. That's why Mog keeps us guessing, you see. Interesting character, that Mog. But yeah, thank you very much, Jonathan, for asking a very interesting question. And our final thing here comes from Mr. Pabs. Mr. Pabs said, "Hi guys, great show as always. As the Olympics are on, I thought I'd keep it sporty. If either of you were in the Olympics, what event or events would you compete in? I'd like to think I would be in the 200 metres, as that's what I did in school, and Taekwondo if I went today. Unlikely, as I'm currently in the worst shape of my life due to life and laziness. Cheers for the show. Have a nice week. Peace out, Mr. Pabs. From Wolverhampton, the home of Slade, Denise Lewis, Beverly Knight, and apparently the UK's first automatic traffic lights. Thank you. I love that. More local trivia, please. Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Fantastic.
Pabs.
Mr. Pabs sounds like a delicious drink.
It does. Very
I think,
tasty.
is there an American drink, Mr. Pibb? It's like Dr. Pepper, I think.
Could be. Sounds familiar. Now, Matthew, I have a list of the Olympic sports in front of me here, according to Olympics.com. There's quite a lot of them.
I mean,
so I won't go through. I won't go through all of them, asking you, so you can just go no, and no. But is there anything off the top of your head? What about bobsleigh? What if we got two skinny athletic lads to sit either in the front and the end of us in bobsleigh, and we could just make up the room in the middle? I'd sit down and just pray for my life that I would be okay.
Surely you put like the heaviest one at like the front.
Front and the back. Would we top and tail the athletic skinny boys? They go in the middle, maybe.
I mean, to be honest, I'm so far from being able to do any of these things. I mean, a sport where you mainly sit.
Sit, yeah.
I mean, there's art to it, I know. That's Winter Olympics as well, isn't it?
Oh shit, you're right. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, very silly of me. You're bang on, yeah.
Like diving, like just 'cause it's quite gravity based.
Trampoline? I can bounce.
I'd never jump around on a trampoline. I'd get no points, but I would have a jump.
But you'd have a whale of a time, and that's the most important. It's not about the winning, it's about taking part. I wouldn't want to do
anything where I have to wear like anything too like sort of skin tight, like lycra or anything, because that wouldn't be particularly flattering. So
yeah,
is there anyone where you can just wear like jeans and a t-shirt?
Fencing, I suppose they have the gear, right? Is that skin tight?
Oh yeah. That would hide my obscene form.
Like, you'd be able to wear the mask, as would I. I'd be able to wear the mask, so people might know. Just give them a fake name. Up next for Team GB is John Davison, who will be fencing.
Why has he appears to have a whisper wrapper sticking out of his trouser pocket.
It's an odd tactic, but we'll see if it works.
Absolutely none of them.
Yeah, looking here, it's hard to see what I would do as well.
I mean, I'm just so far from an Olympian. I mean, shooting, maybe.
Table tennis?
I get the idea of a gun. I could point a gun and be like, pop, pop, pop. I wouldn't, you think you could do it.
What? I don't know. I was like, bop, 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 bop. I think it's pretty slow. And Matthew with his Uzis.
Yeah, the Uzi. I'd do the Uzi event where they just empty an Uzi.
But yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Pebs. So to answer your question, nothing. If you want to reach us, you can also send in your burning questions. Email us at any stage throughout the week. weekspot@rockpapershotgun.com. So that just about does it for this edition of the PC Gaming Weekspot. If you are looking for other ways to support or, just find us in other ways, we have a couple of things that you can do. You can follow us on social media. I am at Colin_Hearn. Matthew is at Mr. Basil_Pesto. Rock Paper Shotgun is at Rock Paper Shot. If you want to talk to some like-minded people, head on over to Discord, discord.gg/Rock Paper Shotgun. If you want to watch the PC Gaming Weekspot, go to youtube.com/Rock Paper Shot. If you want the audio version of the Weekspot, subscribe to our podcast or all of Rock Paper Shotgun's podcasts. Search for us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. If you want some RPS t-shirts, go to store.repop.com, click on the Rock Paper Shotgun button. There's about 3 or 4 of them there that you can get and wear and look beautiful. If you want to support the Rock Paper Shotgun website, go to rockpapershotgun.com/subscribe and you can get yourself an annual subscription, monthly subscription, and that will give you extra articles, podcasts, an ad-free website, all that stuff that people like. But do remember, for all of your PC gaming needs, head to rockpapershotgun.com. Matthew, another week spot in the bag. And
coming up on 52.
We are. It's 50 next week. maybe we'll have Steven Spielberg on. Perhaps.
Mr. Spielberg.
I shouldn't say that. Steven Spielberg's probably not going to be on here. Maybe he will. I don't know. It's a very busy week this week, so maybe not. Anyway, we'll see. But yeah, send us your favourite Weekspot moments. If you want, maybe we'll read them out in Burning Questions. So, Matthew, now...
Favourite Weekspot moment.
It is time...
Oh, when they talk bullshit.
Yeah, that's my favourite as well. But now it's time for my least favourite, Matthew, my least favourite part of the show. This is the part of the show where we bid the listener, the viewer, adieu. So say goodbye, Matthew Castle.
Goodbye.
And say goodbye, Colin Mahern, Sloan, Gafford.